Team. Big applause for these great folks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BC Aviation Museum. My name is Stephen Hale, I'm the president, and on behalf of the board of directors, the volunteers and the paid staff, I'd like to thank you for coming today and making this perhaps the biggest, most successful event we've ever had at this museum. This whole event took countless effort, and there's far too many people for me to thank in a given session. But I would have to mention, we have 210 volunteers here, and there isn't one of them that didn't do something for this event. Well, one of them I have to especially thank is my wife, Natasha. She's tolerated all the time I put in here at this. And what are we here for today? Well, we have the Snowbird Team, which is a phenomenal event itself, but we also have a tutor of our own. In fact, we have the very first Tutor aircraft that joined the Snowbirds in 1971. And it took Dan 20 years to get that airplane for us. He didn't go after any tail number. He went after 175. And after a quick review of my logbook, I discovered I flew it twice. And if you see the skid marks on the tires, it's probably me in my landing. I was a student at the time. I'd like to thank the Department of National Defense for making all of this possible and for enhancing our museum to the next level. There's lots of thanks. Again, I've talked about the museum, I've talked about the Snowbirds, I've talked about some of our special volunteers, but we also had a moment where we had to get this airplane here and assembled, and that was thanks to the Department of National Defense. But after it was assembled, we needed to restore it. Restoring something that size is not a small undertaking. I can hardly wait till we have to do this one. But we originally had a plan, as you do when you take on a project like this, to have it restored. And then suddenly the carpet went out from under our feet, and the people who were going to do it for us couldn't. So Pat Phillips and I, are you here, Pat? Yeah, I know he's here. We went across the street to Mary's to discuss what are we going to do. And now Pat was the first president of this museum, been through all sorts of things. And so I asked him for his words of wisdom. And he leaned across the table at me and he said, "We're screwed." So we finished lunch and then decided, well, we have good friends over at BMT. They have a paint booth, and maybe, just maybe, they'd help us out. So we called Jaden. Say hi to Jaden. Yay, Jaden. Jaden came to the rescue and offered to paint the airplane for us. And he got his two top painters, Devin and Dave. Raise your hands, please, folks. Yeah. And they used to do They used to paint with very lowly machines like Mercedes before this. And I'll tell you what, that paint job will stand up to any Mercedes that you see out there. We're very, very proud of it. We're very thankful to BMT for that, our sponsors for this project. This whole ceremony is a very bittersweet opportunity for us. The sweet part I've just mentioned, we've got that airplane. That airplane will be here for future generations to admire and to show respect for the military and the Snowbirds. The bitter part is the 55th anniversary is likely to be the last for the Snowbirds for the time being. We don't know how they will resurface, but our hearts go out to them and our best wishes as well. Now, part of my job here is to raise money. It's not my favorite part, but we want to put that airplane for future generations in a hangar, and we are raising money for that. We do have a plan already to extend the Henderson hangar, which is behind us here, out onto the pavement. So if you have the need for a tax receipt, we're really good at that, and we'd be very happy to accept any and all donations. It's a very big, a very historic day, and I'd like to hand this over to none other than Dan Dempsey, who himself was a lead for the Snowbirds. He was on the team for 4 years altogether. Dan and I go back to 1983, and he may not want to admit that we flew a starfighter in Germany to an Oktoberfest party. and we went there and we saw a lot of libraries, and yeah, it was all good fun. And then we met 20 years later at Cathay Pacific, flying 747s, actually something that's bigger than this. And he's our most valued historian. And at this stage, I'd like to hand over the mic to Dan. And a big thanks, a big congratulations to Dan for this achievement.
Thank you. It's just wonderful to see all of you here. We knew that this open house this weekend was going to be special, and it certainly has been special. But of course, we owe so much to our beloved Snowbirds who have made a special appearance here. You know, when the schedule came out in December, this event was not planned yet, nor was the show that you're going to see tomorrow, the wonderful show you're going to see tomorrow. So this is called flexibility to the key to air power. And they did everything, they pulled all of the stops, and that's why we're here today. And I couldn't be more thankful to see all of them here. Very grateful. So I just want to thank you. I'm going to be introducing 4 very special guests here in a few minutes. But first of all, I just want to acknowledge a couple of people that are here with us today, that Steve alluded to. And first of all, I want to welcome Colonel Adam Carlson and Chief Warrant Officer Rachel Fox from 15 Wing in Moose Jaw, sitting right here in the front row. For those who don't know, 15 Wing Moose Jaw is where all baby pilots are born and get their wings. It's one of the most important bases we have in the country. So, Colonel, Chief, thank you very much for being here. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge the gentleman sitting right beside them, and that's Colonel Wes Cunningham. And Wes has come just about the furthest, not quite, but almost the furthest to be here. He is the commander of 16 Wing in Borden, Ontario, which is where we got this airplane from. And I just can't thank Wes for his leadership. Once, you know, the airplane was in the Canadian Forces School of Aerospace Technology and Engineering, CIFSE, where all young technicians are trained to become technicians in the RCAF. That's where this airplane was, among 37 other airplanes. Nobody knew the history of this airplane. I'm going to tell you about that in a little bit. But first of all, When I found out that it was there, I immediately approached Wes's predecessor, and then Wes, and I couldn't have got more greater cooperation. So not only did they take all the steps with D&D to help get us the airplane, they took the airplane apart, and as you can imagine, this airplane with wings off coming across Canada on a flatbed truck was a big hit. I can tell you it was a big hit to the BC ferries when we escorted it across. And then Wes had all his crew come out from board to put this airplane back together. And that's the first time I've ever seen wings being put reassembled on an aircraft. But they did a wonderful job over 4 days. And then, as Steve mentioned, then it was up to our folks in VMT Group Services to help us restore the airplane. So thank you, Wes. Lovely to have you here with your family. Thank you. I just want to mention a few other very special people that we have here today. We've got 15 of us former Snowbird team members, 14 pilots and a ground crew member, actually 15 pilots and a ground crew member that are here with us today to help celebrate the unveiling of dedication of this aircraft. We also have representatives from the Victoria Airport Authority here with us. Now I also have to mention the Greater Victoria Festival Society. Those are the folks who've been organizing this wonderful show you're going to see tomorrow. Kelly Curtin and her team are here. Kelly, I can't thank you enough. I've watched all the great work you've done in conjunction with Blake McNaughton, well known to many snowbirds here, who's going to be our air boss for the show tomorrow. Thanks so much. I mentioned DMP. I also just want to mention also that there's so many special friends here that we haven't seen for a long time. And we just appreciate you coming out to see the Snowbirds. And a lot of you I know are already donors to this project. Putting a project like this together takes thousands and thousands of dollars, and we just want to say thank you again for all those who helped make this possible. I just want to tell you a few little things about this airplane and what makes it so special. First of all, as mentioned, it's the original Snowbird 1. But before that, it came off the assembly line in Canadair with 175th of 190 tutors that were built for the Royal Canadian Air Force. It came off the assembly line on the 6th of May, 1966. And it was one of the last tutors built at Canadair, and within a few short months, it was seconded to the Canadian Armed Forces Golden Centenaires. And I know that the older folks in the crowd, at least my age and older, will remember the Centenaires as our Centennial Aerobatic Team in 1967, who did a fantastic, incredible year. They flew 121 air shows in one season in celebration of Canada's 100th birthday. That's a record that has never been matched and will never be matched again, for sure. So that's how this airplane started. And of course, the gentleman who flew the Golden Centenaires was a good friend. He couldn't be here, he's passed away now, but Flight Lieutenant Bill Slaughter was the lead solo of the Canadian Armed Forces Golden Centenaires. So you know that aircraft has pulled +7 and +8G and -4G many times during those 121 shows. I used to talk about Bill and ask him how he did some of the maneuvers, and he told me, and it included a lot of G. So that's how the airplane got its start in the air show industry. It then went back to the school, and then in 1971, it was Colonel O.B. Philp, a good friend to many of us here, who decided he was going to start an unofficial air show team, and it became known as the Snowbirds. So this particular aircraft was the one that Major Glenn Younghusband at the time, Major General retired now, Major Glenn Younghusband chose this aircraft as his lead aircraft and flew it in the lead position for 1971-72. I'm going to come back and talk about Glenn in a few minutes. And then George Miller took over as lead in 1973. So the first 3 years the Snowbirds was in this paint scheme. 1973 was the only year that they had that Snowbird logo on the tail. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Then in 1974, we had the new paint scheme, which you're more familiar with now. And the airplane flew the next 3 years, and at the time was the Snowbird 7 position, flying second line astern by Captain Harry Chapin, well known to all Snowbirds. And Harry's not here today, but we certainly know who he is, and Harry did a great job as the second line astern, flying Tutor 175. I think at this stage what I'd like to do, I should also say that after the airplane was retired in 2000, it went to CIF in Borden, and it spent the next 25 years as a ground trainer for RCAF technicians. So all told, the airplane served 59 years to the RCAF and the Canadian Forces. The total flying time was 10,165 hours on the airplane, and the number of landings is quite impressive. 12,791 landings on that airplane. So most of them would have been by students. So that tells you how robust an airplane the Tutor is, and it really is. It's a fantastic little airplane. Now at this stage, I think what I'd like to do is to introduce the commanding officer of the Snowbirds, Lieutenant Colonel Guillaume Paquette. Guillaume has been the team leader, the commanding officer now for about a year. He's done a great job with the team. His earlier claim to fame was a Snowbird 8 back in 2013, 2014, I think. Is that right, Guillaume? Yep. And at Snowbird 8, I know that all of my esteemed fellow Snowbird pilots, and I'm sure many of the team today will acknowledge that Guillaume had the best job on the team as a solo pilot. Anyway, it's a great pleasure to introduce Guillaume. He's going to tell you about the significance of the Tutor flying with the Snowbirds.
Thank you, Dan. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is an absolute honor and a privilege for the team and I to be here with all of you this afternoon to celebrate an important milestone in Canadian military aviation. As you all know, 2026 is a very special and emotional year for the Snowbirds. And today's ceremony is one of many moments that reminds us how remarkable this team is and how grateful we are for those who have paved the way before us over the past 6 decades. Another significant milestone worth mentioning took place on 11 July, when the Snowbirds performed at the Moose Jaw Hometown Air Show, exactly 55 years to the day after the team's very first performance in Saskatchewan back in 1971. That first performance in Moose Jaw was led by then Major Glenn Younghusband, flying Tutor 175, the very same aircraft being dedicated here this afternoon. This year also marks the Snowbirds' 55th anniversary season. So 55 years, so think about this, 55 years of proudly flying the Canadian flag across North America, showcasing the professionalism, the teamwork, and excellence of the Canadian Armed Forces. 2026 carries added significance because, as we all know, it will be the Snowbirds' final season performing with the Canadair Tutor jet aircraft. After more than 6 decades of distinguished service with the Royal Canadian Air Force, Canadians from coast to coast will have one last opportunity to watch the iconic red and white Tutor jet aircraft fly before it is officially retired at the end of this year. Since 1971, the Tutor has been the only aircraft ever flown by the Snowbirds. This is significant, carrying generations of pilots through thousands of performances before millions of spectators across North America. No other military aerobatic demo team in the world has operated the same aircraft for so long. A testament not only to the exceptional design and durability of the Tutor itself, but also to the professionalism, expertise, and expertise of the maintainers, the blue serters here in front of you, who have kept this airplane flying safely for the past 63 years. The Tutor, one of the most recognized aircraft in Canada, has become a symbol of national pride, inspiring generations of Canadians and connecting with them in a way that very few aircraft ever have. For many Canadians, their first interaction with the military is through the Snowbirds, arguably the Canadian Armed Forces' greatest recruiting tool and one of its most recognized organizations, making this last season even more special and emotional. However, it is important to remember that although the aircraft will soon retire, the mission of the Snowbirds will endure. Every military demonstration team eventually transitioned to a new aircraft. What defines the Snowbirds has never been the platform. It is the people. Pilots, technicians, support staff, civilian contractors, and public servants, whose commitment to excellence continues to inspire Canadians every single day. Today, however, it is not about what comes next. It is about honoring where we came from. Tutor 175 is far more than just another tutor. It is a living symbol of the Snowbirds' early year. This restoration is about preserving the stories, the people, and the legacy behind it. This afternoon, we're incredibly honored to be joined by two pioneers who both flew, as mentioned by Dan, Tutor 175 at Snowbird 1 during the team's early shaping years. Major General retired Glenn Young husband and Colonel retired George Miller. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of one of our honorary Snowbirds, Captain retired David Berger-North, to whom we owe the creation of our famous team logo, as you can see there on the tail, which has become the signature of the Snowbirds. Gentlemen, the team and I are extremely grateful to stand alongside you this afternoon to share this historical moment. Your presence reminds us that history is not simply something we read about. It is something we can still meet, shake hands with, and learn from. Now I would like to take the opportunity to recognize Mr. Dan Dempsey, whose vision, hard work, and dedication made today's event possible. For more than 20 years, yes, 20 years, Dan has devoted countless hours, passion, and leadership to preserving this important piece of Canadian military aviation heritage. Thanks to his determination, Tutor 175 has finally found its permanent home here at the BC Aviation Museum. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in recognizing Dan's incredible efforts in bringing this project to the finish line. Finally, Major General retired Young husband, Colonel retired Miller, Captain retired Berger-North, to the Phil family representing the late Wing Commander Colonel O.B. Phil, who had the wits and the vision to stand up the Snowbirds Team back in 1971. And to all former and current 431 Squadron members, thank you. Thank you for being part of history, and thank you for building the legacy we're so privileged to carry forward with purpose and pride. To everyone else here this afternoon, and to the great people of BC, enjoy tomorrow's final Snowbirds performance over Victoria, flying the iconic red and white Tutor jet aircraft. For many, tomorrow will be an emotional day. But remember, as one chapter closes, another one begins. The Snowbirds will be back in the air and will return to BC. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Guillaume, for those very kind and appropriate words. We all, everybody here, of course, appreciate so much what you have done as the commanding officer and what the team has done this year, and will continue to do for the balance of the year. They're setting record crowds everywhere they go, not surprisingly. And when you consider that, over that 55 years, over 2,800 official shows flown, more than 155 million spectators all over North America to hundreds and hundreds of locations. So they've earned their place in history, that's for sure. So speaking of history, I just want to, we're going to conclude this afternoon by dedicating this jet. And we're going to dedicate it to those four individuals that have already been mentioned. So I'm just going to say a couple of brief words about each of them. And I'm going to start off with Colonel O.B. Phil. So O.B. lived just 2 kilometers north of here in a manor farm. And he was the visionary. He also, hasn't been mentioned, he was the commanding officer of the Golden Centenaires in 1967. So that's where his seed was planted, when he eventually became the base commander in Moose Jaw, and then took over the base, saw the white Tutors, asked what they were, realized they were his old Golden Centenaire aircraft, and that's how he ended up with the Snowbirds in those beautiful white airplanes. OB was a man, many of us here knew OB. He was a tough guy to work for because he had such high standards. But if you set those standards for OB, you had a friend for life. Now OB unfortunately is not with us. He passed away in 1995, and I'm pleased to say that the 1995 team was here to do a fly pass for him over Manor Farm after he had passed away. But his daughter Kim is here representing the family. Kim Philp is an honorary snowbird in her own right. She's been a tremendous supporter of the team, and Kim, we really appreciate you here. So I just mentioned, you know, we call OB the father of the Snowbirds, and that's exactly what he was. When he started this team, he had absolutely no authority to do so. He said, we need a national aerobatic team, and so we're going to have a national aerobatic team, and I'm just going to start one. And that's exactly what he did. So all of his initial team were all instructors. And they did this sort of part-time, and they managed to get, I think, in that first season, 25 shows. But you can imagine how popular that was. I was there as a young teenager on the 11th of July, 1971, at CFE Moose Jaw, when Glenn led his team in the air for the first time. And having been motivated as a young boy by the RCAF Golden Hawks, boy, I was just absolutely thrilled to see the Snowbirds fly, and I have been every single time ever since, and I've seen them fly hundreds of times. So Glenn, I just want to say again, thank you. It's an honor to have you here, and thank you for all you did in those first 2 years, because they were fundamental years. You know, the 1971 and 72 teams had to prove themselves to the D&D hierarchy, and indeed to the government of Canada, to say, yeah, we do need another national aerobatic team. And Glenn, full credit to you and your team for having done that. And we have some of those original team members with us here today, so thank you for that. Early on, it was decided, as had been the case with the RCAF Golden Hawks and the Golden Centenaires, well, the Golden Centenaires were just 1 year, but the Golden Hawks, they were normally 2-year tours. So OB decided to keep that tradition going, and he decided, okay, well, we're going to keep the Snowbirds going, I need a new team leader. So we called along a former RCAF Golden Hawk solo pilot, and like Glenn, who had also flown the CF-114 Starfighter and the F-86 Sabre, and he called a gentleman by the name of George Miller, who was on tour over in Europe at the time, and asked me if he wouldn't mind coming back to take over as the team leader of the Snowbirds. Well, George had never flown the Tutor before, but he readily agreed to come back, and he was able to take the team, thanks to everything that had been done in the first 2 years that paved the way. George was able to take it to the next step. So Glenn had added another 2 aircraft to make it a 9-plane in 1972. Now George was able to take that 9-plane and get authorization to actually do formation loops and aerobatics with the formation that Glenn had been restricted to before. So that was the first step. And then in 1974 is when the team got their new paint scheme. They ended up in red flying suits, and they ended up with a situation where now they could do formation changes during looping maneuvers. Something again, it was kind of like a building block process. It was a matter of establishing that trust with the Canadian Forces hierarchy to say, yes, we can do this and we can do this safely. So full credit to George, who's been a great mentor of mine for all these years, for all the work you did in establishing the new paint scheme, the red flying suits, the formation changes that we all take for granted these days, and the current team does so well. So thank you, George. Last but not least, I have to pay tribute to our old friend here, Captain David Berger North, known to everybody as Badger. Badger joined the RAF as a young man in 1954. He flew Vampires and Meteors, and then he flew the Canberra bomber in a nuclear strike role, and then decided to come over and emigrate to Canada, join the RCAF, and eventually ended up as an A1 instructor on the Tutor aircraft, and he had actually flown this aircraft as well, in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. But Badger had a flair for artwork, And it was thanks to Badger's work that Obi Philp went to him in 1971 and said, hey, can we get some sort of a new logo for our snowbirds? And it actually started off with a matchbook that had been seen that had a sheath of wheat on it. And if you look carefully up there, you can see the idea how the sheath of wheat grew to those three speed birds, we call them, with snowflakes. And then it was a young student in Wichita named Douglas Farmer who actually named the snowbirds in 1971. So Badger, full credit to you. Everybody in the world knows that logo thanks to your efforts. So thank you very much for everything you do. So it's an honor, it's just a great honor to dedicate this airplane to those four pioneers, those great guys who gave us the snowbirds. And at this stage, Steve's going to come back up, and I'm going to ask Guillaume to join me, and we're going to just do a little unveiling. We couldn't find a Canadian flag big enough to put on the airplane, so we have a little storyboard here that we created, and when we get the aircraft inside, eventually there'll be a much larger display.
So one of the things that's important in a museum is to maintain and record history. Today is a huge day for that, and it would only be fitting that we have a plaque on permanent display in the museum to reflect that history. So I present to you our Snowbird 175 plaque. I invite all of you to come and have a look at it, have a read, bit of history. Okay, I see some of you frying like bacon out there, so I think we better call this a bit of a conclusion. The last thing I would like to say, and as president I always get to say the last word, I think we're going to look for another OB. We need another OB to get this team back on and to get all of the greatness and all of the Canadiana that surrounds the Snowbirds back in action. Thank you all for coming. We're going to be doing some photos and some press work over by the airplane shortly, so please take your time to come up, have a look at this great plaque, and enjoy the last few minutes of the open house. Thank you.
I have to go do some stuff, sweetheart.
Get everyone over here. Watch your hand.
Yeah, so one more presentation for the museum. So I know I'm in the company of ex-bosses and everything. Yeah, so on behalf of the 2026 Snowbirds, we flew a Canadian flag over Parliament on Canada Day, and this is the same flag that flew in the One Jet 058 today with me and my crew chief, Sergeant Tutor, over the established crowd here before we landed. So I'd like to donate this to the museum. Please fold it appropriately, hang it in a place of honor, but this is our gift to you.
Awesome, thank you so much. You've done this before?
I do this every Tuesday. It's a Monday, isn't it?